Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 1970-73 off-season look at the upcoming draft, keepers, waives, retires. We're continuing a series where we're examining at potential first-round picks, looking at the 2,560 eligible players. We've been through this a couple times. 2 weeks ago, I believe, we started and forecasted who Cleveland could get with the first pick. We considered that they could trade to get Frank Robinson to be the first overall pick in the draft, the Hall of Famer. And then we continued through the St. Louis choice. We believe they're going to take Lou Brock with their first pick, the Cardinals. So we're going to do about another 10 teams tonight, if time permits, and then wrap it up next week with a just general get an idea what to expect as far as the talent in the draft that's going to be in March of 2022. So the next team on the clock, it would be the Florida Marlins. Let's take a look at Florida. We'll go back over again and look at the format for all teams, alphabetized by team. 12 Florida players are right here. They have 4 keepers that they could select. They could elect to improve one of their existing players with a different card that they own. They've waived a couple guys, retired a couple guys, and they got rookies to look at. So all of that is under consideration here. I'm going to actually take just a quick look at and I've already done an analysis of the carry-on guys. As far as those guys being an option, let's go open that up as well, because this does it pretty quickly for me. This would let me know here if there are any existing players who get a lot better if I switch years, indicated with orange. And with Florida, nothing special stands out there, so that's not going to happen. So that saves me the trouble. There's no highlighted there. So keepers, Casey Cox, kind of a middling starter. Manny Mota, who he would be playing for Florida through most of this timeline instead of the Dodgers, because frankly, Florida needs players. They didn't exist back then, and the Dodgers could afford to lose Mota. They are very talented in their own. Jose Pagan, Chico Simone. Those 4, Mota is clearly in his wheelhouse here. This is Mota, who is still playing left field semi-regularly. His averages from 70 to 73 are all over 300 with an 809 OPS in 72. That looks like he could be a first-round pick. We just considered Lou Brock in the previous pick. When you look at their batting averages, not the stolen bases, but look at the batting averages and so forth and the slash lines, a very similar player. Minus stolen bases, of course. So Mota would be the best of these 4, but we also have to consider the rookies of 1973. So let's take a peek at that class. In the year of 73, sorted again by team, and Florida has to consider Luis Melendez, Celerino Sanchez, Eduardo Rodriguez, Hector Torres, and Mario Guerrero. None of those players are particularly interesting. So it's looking like Manny Mota, and that would be a fine pick. They'll hold on to him all the way through 1977, of course, when he hits 395. So yeah, so you're just continuing Mota action throughout the timeline. All right, Chi Sox. Kind of think we know where we're going to go here. They traded in the off-season for the rights to Mr. Dick Allen. And I would hope that Dick Allen would be the first-round pick. Let's look at the rookies first, see if he gets challenged. A lot of them. Laren LeGros, Luis Alvarado, Bucky Dent, Jerry Hairston, Tony Muser, George Orta, Bart Johnson, Steve Stone. Quickly, I can look at OPS and see that Tony Muser is the best one there. That's a decent Tony Muser card without the power, of course. Always could field and slap the ball around. 285, 352. Only 388 slugging. The pitchers, nothing special there. So we'll go to see the existing Chi Sox players. We'll quickly look at this chart as well and see if there's a White Sox player. Terry Forster would be a consideration, making him better than what he already is. But that's what we have to compare that to Mr. Dick Allen. And even Carlos May's got a great year in here in 72. 308, 843 OPS. Great year. But Dick Allen, a couple years over 1,000. He's got to be your first pick. And just quickly, Terry Forster, just for a frame of reference here. He has a .138 whip, which is not very good. But he does have a .119 whip, but obviously that's not going to be better than bringing in the MVP of the American League, Dick Allen. No-brainer after all that for the Chi Sox. Let's move on. The Pirates, a team that really disappointed last year. And I could very easily see this team winning the World Series this year because they're very talented and they had a year-wide slump. So if you believe in that sort of thing, then they should rebound by going into an incredible winning streak this year. The talent is clearly there everywhere. Starting, relieving, bats everywhere. So, I'll just quickly go through the Pirates. You want to improve anybody on the Pirates? They did it last year with Stargell. Probably not this year. No, you don't want to improve any of the Pittsburgh players because they're already great. By the way, so Reddy Stennett hit 353 in 1971, and he hit 358 in the league I just played. But it was Willie Stargell in the year of 71. 295, 398, 628, 1026 with 48 home runs, and he hit 210 for me. Just a middling, awful year, and that pretty much torpedoed their season. So, in their organization, they have Richie Hebner, obviously a guy they want to keep, Bob Moose, Al Oliver, Jim Rooker. 4 really good keepers here. Let's just skip to rookies real quickly because I'd like to dismiss them if I can as a first-round pick. Pittsburgh Rookies. Oh, but you got Dave Parker, Richie Zisk, and John Lamb. Wow, Parker and Zisk. And by the way, Zisk is 324 with an 890 OPS. Oh my goodness. And of course, Dave Parker is awesome, but not as awesome as he would eventually be. He's just hitting 288 here. And I don't think he has a very good split against left-handed pitching. So let's let Parker sit a little bit. But you got to beat out Richie Zisk with one of your keepers for your first-round pick. It doesn't really matter. Pittsburgh is going to improve their team, and they're going to be even better than the roster was last year. It's a question of performance. Richie Hebner, a couple years at 300 with an 886 OPS. He's over 800 all 4 years. Now, we mentioned that Al Oliver, we want to put him in center field now because our friend Mattiel Liu was traded in the offseason, and because we have no space for Al Oliver on this team with Bob Robertson and Willie Stargell and Clemente and so forth. So the year 72, Oliver, it's 312. He could play center field. And in 73, he's a 2 in center field. It's 292. OPS under 800. So clearly, Hebner would be taken before Oliver. Oliver doesn't really start crushing it until the late 70s. By that time, it was time to move on to Texas Rangers. Jim Rooker. He's got a great 73 card, but only 170 innings. And then lastly, Bob Moose. You know, all this analysis doesn't matter. They're going to have a great first, second, third, fourth round pick. So it doesn't really matter. You just have to order them in as far as BPA. Bob Moose, 72 card, a $115 whip in 226 innings, 291 ERA. I'm thinking him or Zisk and possibly Hebner. One of those, that's probably your first 3 picks. Oliver probably be the 4th pick. Rooker be the 5th pick for this team. And that Yeah, and then they would have 17 men on their roster, and they would just get 3 other guys. It doesn't matter. Now that 17-man roster would be pretty devastating, and they would be a serious threat to the Cincinnati Reds in the National League North. All right, we go to Seattle. So we just had. It's funny. How in the heck was Seattle better than Pittsburgh last year? They just got lucky. One team was really lucky, one team was really unlucky. So Seattle, the Mariners. Oh yeah, we talked about this. Expansion teams are often ones that like to improve talent they already have. Because a lot of times they acquire a player young, inexperienced. And if you just wait a little bit, instead of waiting for the card to expire, upgrade it sooner than later so you get some performance. So they got a lousy Fred Norman with a 5.14 ERA, but you can bump him up to a 73 card, which is on the rotation for the Reds. Dave May has a fine, solid year as an everyday player, 1973 as well. These two guys are definitely first round eligible. And then let's see, you also have Mattiel Liu as a keeper. But I think his defense starts to go down. His base stealing starts to go down a little bit. He's still a good batting average. He doesn't have an OPS over 800. I don't think he's a first rounder. Ted Uhlaender is strictly mostly a defensive slap hitter. Hoy Wilhelm has one good year in the bullpen left, but his whip is kind of high. Dick Woodson is a nice pitcher. I mean, he's not great. He's nice, though, in the year of 72. Yes. He wins 14 games, 2.72 ERA, 251 innings, .116 whip. This Seattle team, this is kind of crazy, but they are going to put a nice little team together. We talked about the 73 improvements. I would bump both those guys up in 73, Norman and May. And then you take Woodson in 72. And then Al Liu has 4 similar years, doesn't really matter. That'd be four nice players on a team that should be in last place, but we're not. All right, good news for the Mariners. And that's a surprising turn. All right, the Phillies. Not quite in Mike Schmidt territory yet, though he's available. The Phillies, they got to wait their turn. They're still going to be behind the Mets and Braves in the East. The Phillies, do they see anybody inside their roster, the 12 guys that they do? They think that Terry Harmon could be an everyday infielder, perhaps the third baseman until Schmidt arrives. Because you got Boa, you also have Tony Taylor, and you got Denny Doyle. But Harmon's got a nice everyday card in 72. You've got Joe Horner, a really good lefty setup guy in 71. Those are nice improvements, but neither of these players really scream first-round pick. Johnny Callison's getting near the end of it a little bit. He's 31, 32, 33, 34-year-old player. Great arm and range in right field. He has a 788 OPS in 70, and then after that, it's just kind of ordinary. Fred Gladding is a nice righty reliever. .02 whip in 1972. How about Grant Jackson? Take him out of the rotation, put him in the bullpen where he's more effective. He went from the Phillies to the Orioles in this period. He's lights out with the Orioles from 71 to 73. With a .18, a .02, and 0.971 whip. So maybe, actually, the Phillies and the Orioles might want to strike a deal. And Jerry Johnson, just kind of ordinary. This is tough. I'm not sure exactly what the Phillies are going to do. Let's go look at their rookies. And you'll see Schmidt. Does Schmidt have a buddy in here? That's good. Let's find out. The Philly rookies. And when I say rookie, they're not technically all rookies. It means that they haven't been in my league yet, which would include rookies and guys who have not been in the league yet. So you have a nice laundry list here. Bob Boone, Tom Hutton, Mike Rogodinsky, Mike Schmidt, Jim Lonborg, Dick Ruthven, Max Scarse, Wayne Twitchell, Ron Lolich. That's some nice talented pitchers in there. So first of all, Schmidt hits 196. So we're not going to bring that lousy card to the league yet. We're going to let Schmidt get some more seasoning in the minors. The sticks aren't any good, but the pitchers, actually, Scarse and Twitchell are good. Twitchell is a very interesting pitcher here. Now remember, you got Carlton, lefty on 3 days rest, but you got Twitchell at a 2.50 ERA on 3 days rest with a 1.21 WHIP. And for a team like the Phillies who aren't very good, that might be your first round pick. I like Wayne Twitchell. Scarse, he's got a nice 73 card as well, or maybe he might have a better 74 card. But Twitchell, that's a pretty good starting pitcher right there. And you team him up with Carlton, and now those two guys can pitch pretty much half your games with ERAs of 2.50 and below. I think Carlton's is 1.92. So great starting pitching for the Phillies would make up for a lot of shortcomings. All right, the Yankees. This is a perennial 500 team in this particular timeline. The New York Yankees. Let's look at the rookies first. Not a lot of them. Fred Bean, Doc Medich. Doc Medich, wow, 14-game winner and with a 2.95 ERA in 217 innings, a .123 WHIP. Pretty similar, not quite as good as Twitchell, but close. Fred Bean, nice reliever, with a .03 WHIP and a .68 ERA. So two pretty good pitching options in the rookie class. Do they bring along anybody to get better? They do not. Nothing orange there. So let's see who their keepers are for the Yankees. Looking for a first-round pick. Horace Clark is just pretty ordinary, switch-hitting middle infielder. And Gene Michael, same thing. But you got Fritz Peterson and Sparky Lyle. Now, Fritz really puts it together in 70. .10 WHIP, 20-game winner on the rotation. Boom, he's your guy, unless Sparky Lyle is even better, who they acquired in the offseason. 3-team trade involving the Red Sox, getting rid of a Sparky Lyle that really wasn't very good for Boston. Lyle with Boston had a 3.80 ERA and 2.75, but then when he went to the Yankees, it was a .92 and 2.51. He was always known better to get righties out than lefties, which makes pitching in Yankee Stadium ideal. All those right-handers hit high cans of corn in the left field. You see how good the WHIP is. From Boston, it was 142 and 123. He gets into Yankee Stadium, it's 105, 102. You can't go wrong with Sparky Lyle or Fritz Peterson, two of the top lefties in the rotation and bullpen in this era, with your first and second round picks in either order pretty much. And again, if you're not a great team, if you can at least get great pitching, it really helps. All right, Portland. Another expansion team here. Do they have any carry-on guys that are worth looking at? Bob Montgomery, and he's a Strat-O-Matic legend. You probably all know. He's got like 300 hitting cards in small sample size for the Red Sox as the backup to Carlton Fisk. 1973 is one of those stellar cards you'd like to have. But let's see if they have somebody else. Now, they actually got Belanger in the expansion draft away from the Orioles. So it's kind of cool to have a good shortstop. Obviously, you want him to be a 1 if you're going to have Belanger. And interestingly, in 71, he's a 1E18 with a 266 average, but that doesn't scream first-round pick, of course. Nelson Briles has one really lights-out year in here. Two of them. 72 and 3, 284 ERA on 3 days rest with a .15 WHIP. That screams first-round pick for an expansion team. And then Jerry Kenny, and he's kind of losing it a little bit, and Rich Reese definitely losing it a little bit. I think Nelson Briles Again, a great starting pitcher for an expansion team will help. Bob Montgomery, improve him in the second round. Minnesota is next. The Twins. We've been talking about them as being on the edge of that window where the 60s are starting to slam shut. 65 World Series. They kept trying. They couldn't get past the Orioles when the league split into the American League East and West. Winners of the American League West, but did not win a playoff game in 69 or 70. Nothing, because they're getting old, and they're not going to get any better. If anything, they're getting worse, are their players. But they do have a nice little farm system to help them. Do the Twins? But first, let's see who their keepers are. Heisel, Killebrew, Peronowski, Reichert. So it screams Killebrew as a first-round pick. However, he's now 34, 35, 6, 7. So I don't think performance is there anymore to warrant a first-round pick. He does hit 41 home runs, 957 OPS in 70. That actually might be the first-round pick. Larry Heisel, he has a nice 1973 card when he arrives in Minnesota. 272 with a 773 OPS, but Killebrew is clearly better than that. Ron Peronowski's got one lights out year, but his whip's kind of high. Pete Reichert, also in 70, is good. You know, frankly, let's look at the rookie class. It is Killebrew. I thought Killebrew was getting too old to be a first-round pick, but I am wrong, I think. Can you beat Harmon Killebrew with your rookie class? Twins. Here we go. They have got a lot of them. Craig Robinson, Steve Bry, Bobby Darwin, Jim Holt, Eric Soderholm, Eddie Bain, Bill Campbell, Joe Decker, Dave Goltz. All right, Dave Goltz's name stands out, but he's not ready yet. He needs more work. He needs more time. Bill Campbell, he's okay. He needs more time. The Sticks, Eric Soderholm in a small sample size is a pretty cool 1973. 297, 414 on base, 837 OPS. He should be the new third baseman. Bring him in with those stats. That'd be pretty cool. Jim Holt also hits 297. They'd be two nice rookies to add to this team. But we're still sticking with Harmon Killebrew in the first round. Pretty much. All right. How many more teams do we want to get to here? Let's see. We'll do two more and then call it. Vegas, an expansion team. They had a nice year, though, last year. They won the division. The rookies are... And expansion teams' rookies generally aren't that great. Let's go see who they are. Ron Hodges, Tom Walker, Dick Sharon, Milt Wilcox, Ben Ogilvy. Remember, these fictional teams are getting their rookies out of all other organizations in baseball as guys those organizations discarded. So you've got a Met, an Expo, a Tiger, an Indian, and a Red Sox player all making up the minor league system for Vegas. And none of those guys are any good, as expected. So they have to... Last year they improved 4 players. That was a high total for internal team improvement, and it helped them win their division. Admittedly, just 3 games over 500, but they won the division with that record. Do they want to do it again? Vegas. Yeah, Ken Brett. They brought along a pretty lousy Ken Brett card out of the expansion draft because he's left-handed mostly is the biggest reason. But you might as well now bump him up to a 73 instead of waiting till 1973. So, Ken Brett, let's see if there's a keeper that is better than that. Ray Culp, he's still hanging in there in his late 20s. Pitches on 3 days rest, back-to-back years with a middling. Yeah, he's got an ERA of 3, 360, $1.20, $1.25 whip. That's good enough for an expansion team. Ken Brett will be better, I believe. Ted Kubiak. Yeah, just a infielder, just a guy, nothing special. Blue Moon Odom. Kind of struggled a little bit in this timeline. Has 1 good year out of 4. It is 1972. Would have gotten himself a ring for the Oakland A's. 15-6 with a 2.50 ERA. Doesn't pitch on 3 days rest. $1.29 whip is good. It's not great. He'd be a reluctant first-round pick. And Art Shamsky. Nice year, 1970. That'll probably be his card. But let's take a look at the Ken Brett 73, which is up here in the light green color. Ken Brett. Mixed them up. Ken Brett, there he is. So there's the guy you want. 3.44 ERA, 211 innings, 1.32 whip. A little high in all those areas, but still. The idea of getting an innings eater, a guy who can pitch on 3 days rest for a team that does not have a lot of pitchers who have a lot of innings. Matter of fact, the current pitchers that they have, Tom Dukes, the Ken Brett mentioned, Roger Hambright, Jim Rowland, and Woody Fryman, none of those guys pitch 100 innings. So they need some innings on this team, and Ken Brett brings it. And lastly tonight, and we'll give it a pause, we'll finish up with Kansas City, a team that we have been applauding for the last 2 years as a team that got expansion right. They did it right from 69, and when I do it in the carryover league, they exceed expectations of when Kansas City starts to compete for the American League West. George Brett's still a couple years away, and they're putting together a team that should win a division and compete for a World Series. No serious weaknesses on the Royals. Let's look at this rookie class after I consider improving any of their players. Interesting. They picked up Horacio Pena in the offseason in a trade for 1 year in 69, and now they have the opportunity to make him a great reliever, but let's hang on, stick a pin in that until we find out more about the rookie class and the keepers. But it's always good to see that this team has plenty of options. This rookie class of Kansas City: Frank White, Doug Bird, Steve Busby, Gene Garber, Skip Jetsy. Wow. See, they're going to be good for a while. Frank White is not ready yet. Doug Bird, nice card. 102 innings, $1.08 ERA, and I believe he is in the bullpen. So Bird would be in the bullpen. That Horacio Pena card would also pretty much be in this bullpen as well. So they're kind of competing for each other spot. Busby goes in the rotation, but his ERA is 4.23. So you just wait a little bit. Gene Garber, 4.24. You got to wait just another year or two, and then those guys will be in the league every year through the rest of the decade. But let's see the keepers for Kansas City. Bill Butler has 1 year left, and it's not a great one. Pat Kelly, eventually he will go to the White Sox. And, you know, I know he's a keeper, and he's okay. He's just an okay player. But if Kansas City's thinking that they want to compete for a World Series, they might want to bump up corner outfield from somebody better than Pat Kelly. Now, Ed Kirkpatrick, known for versatility, he's still 275, 761 OPS in one of the years. And Lou Piniella. Well, Piniella is probably the best of the bunch here. Yeah. So Lou Piniella, of these four players, Lou Piniella is the best of this bunch. Hits 312, 356 on base, 441 for the 797 OPS, 624 plate appearances. He is with Kansas City this entire time. We know he eventually plays for the New York Yankees, but that is still years and years away. So Piniella looks like he could be the first-round pick. Him, and nothing to laugh at. That's a steady guy there. That's a 624 plate appearances with a 312, 356, 441. that's good first round pick numbers. They compare favorably to the Lou Brock numbers and to the Manny Mota numbers, who we also said were first round picks. So in a mild surprise, Lou Piniella's the first round pick, unless, what was it, Horacio Pena, and I don't think any of these rookies, I mean, they've gone so far, Kansas City, with, you know, the right move with Mayberry and Cookie Rojas and Fred Patek and Paul Shaw, Amos Otis, all the right moves for this team. So Doug Bird as a reliever, Lou Piniella, and the only other guy is this Horacio Pena. Let's look at him before we call it. So the improvement is Horacio Pena, 279 with a 142 whip. But if you bump him up here, 273, his whip is 1.04, which is pretty darn good. Right around 1 is, you know, dominant. So yeah, Pena is probably better than Doug Bird. I think Lou Piniella, though, he's the first round pick. Pena, second round pick, most likely. But that's pretty good analysis of the first rounds. It's looking pretty good. I haven't seen a team that's really struggling that looks lost. Everybody seems to have a clear path of how to improve their team, and that's how you get a great carryover league. If all 32 teams are competitive, and even the last place teams have a shot at the wild card year to year. That's it tonight. Thanks for checking out the 70-73 draft prep off season. We'll see you next time.